Westerns are back, baby. Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I am excited to talk to you today about a Western that I have seen. And people like to say the Western is back. I don't know if the Western's ever gone away. I think it's evolved into different forms. It's certainly been used as a basis for science fiction. If you look back at the original Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie is effectively a Western. But this film, Old Henry, that is out now is so remarkable. You need to see it. I highly recommend seeing it in a theater. It's an incredible journey that just is a Western tale that is told in such an elegant way. And I'm ecstatic to talk to the director. Potsy Ponciroli is here to talk to us on the Film Threat Podcast about Old Henry. Potsy, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I need to take you with me everywhere and just have you give me that intro every time. I appreciate it.
It's just so, look, a really good Western establishes villains, heroes, maybe they're, in a sense, morality tales as well. Tell me about like the development of this story before we talk about the incredible cast that you put together for the film. But what went into the development of this tale?
It's kind of funny. The idea came. I was out at this property. We were scouting for another job we had coming up, and found this house that kind of sat down in this little hillside, and it was so secluded. And I'm from the city area of Nashville. I've never really lived in the country, so the country scares me a little, especially after dark, because it just gets really quiet out there. So the idea of living out there and having no one to protect you but yourself was kind of the genesis of this whole story. So what do you do if somebody comes to your door? You have to choose whether to help them. Do you trust them? So that really, the story before it was a Western or anything, it was, what do you do when a stranger comes to your door and you need to help them? And then if somebody else comes to the door and is like, no, I'm telling the truth, they're lying, who do you believe? So that was really the basis of the whole story. And then, of course that fits in the Western world way better because, it's the gun is your answer back then. So.
Yeah, it really, what I loved about it is it shows this isolation and this, you really have to trust your neighbors and suss out, like, is this person really telling the truth? And just just how hard the life is. I love that the film, it's this slow burn. You can see that all the chess pieces, you're putting all the chess pieces in place, building up to this third act that is so incredible. And I think we were talking about before we started recording is we really can't talk much about the third act because but I just want to let people know that it's this buildup is so well worth it. This cast that you got together, let's start with Stephen Dorff. He's incredible, and then also Tim Blake Nelson. How did you get them to agree to be in this film?
Tim was I've always been a fan of his, and just seeing him in this, Tim will tell you he has an old time face, and I fully agree with that. He just has an air about him that lends himself to these times, and it's so when we went to him, we sent him the script, and thank God he read it, and his agent called and said, hey, he would like to have a Zoom call with you. So we had about an hour and a half Zoom call, and on the call, he asked me a bunch of questions and kind of what I was thinking. And we hit it off pretty well. And so his final thing was, are you willing to look at the character with me and just kind of go through my character and really break it down? I was like, sure. So before he signed his contract, we were on the phone for about, I'd say an hour and a half every day for about a month. Just going through, watching movies, reading books, just talking about the world and how do we bring that harshness and that realism to this film. And he was in from day one, even before he signed the contract, which was fantastic. And then Stephen Dorff, needed a villain that could sell it with just looks and with that presence. And Stephen Dorff, ever since day one, has always had that raspy voice and that stern look to him. So he was born to play a villain. But I found out he lives in Nashville. He lives right outside of Nashville. So we hit him up and he said, "Yeah, come have a beer with me and let's just talk about the script." And so drove out to his little town and we had a beer for a couple hours and just really, we talked about everything but movies. But at the end of the day, he always wanted to do a Western. And I think that, the idea of just going out in the woods and shooting a film during COVID with some friends and hanging out sounded like a lot of fun. So that's how we got Stephen Dorff.
So it's amazing you shot this like during COVID. Like obviously precautions were taken and whatnot, but did that hamper filming at all? Like how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I think between COVID, I mean, we took over 1,200 tests total. So we were tested 3 times a week. You had to get in on the day, you had to get your test. So between, shooting in winter, which we shot in November, December, which were the shortest daylight hours. So our days were already short. And then we ate up the first part of the day, about 45 minutes every day with COVID precautions. And then, it slows you down on set because you're wearing a mask and a shield, and trying to talk to people with those on is, it hinders it for sure. But yeah, we weren't shut down at all. We had 2 positive tests, but we caught them before they got anywhere, before they entered set. And so we were able to kind of stop it. So it was really a great experience, and our producers were just on it from the beginning. So, I would say, I don't know, it made us, there was less time to film, but it made us, everyone on set, even on the weekends, nobody went out. Everyone was very true to trying to stay healthy and keep the film going. So, crew, they wouldn't go out on the weekends, and everyone was pretty, a tight knit family trying to get through this thing together. So,
what were the challenges being out there in the wilderness? It seems to me that you really captured that what it feels like to be, in right there in the midst of it all, and that sort of sense of, you see a figure in the distance, like this could be a threat, or it could be a friend, it could be something good, it could be something horrible. Mm-hmm. I just love the way that you set this tone in the film that just tees up all the things that end up paying off. Can you talk about the environment? It's almost like I feel like another character in the film is the setting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this location, we couldn't have gotten any luckier. This was, this is the basis of the story. So selling, this house was built 150 years ago. It sits down in this hole. It's on, the house is set up on stones. So just kind of showing the harshness. There's no electricity. If you want food, you have to kill it or grow it, and you have to chop your firewood. You have to smoke food for the next day. So there's a lot of setup in the film of trying to show you how hard that life was. But then in the landscape, Westerns are big, wide movies. You want to see how the expanse and feel how big that is. So I think, my DP and I, John Matishak, we set out from the beginning to make the inside feel very kind of tight and safe, where outside was very wide and expansive, and harsh. So I think that was one thing that we really wanted to sell, is that location and the just the coldness and the harsh landscape. So
it really works. I want to talk a little bit about Tim Blake Nelson's performance in the film. A couple things. One, he's also, Tim is very funny in mm-hmm. other. I don't know. He's sort of downplayed any humor in this for sure. But there's a thing with his. I don't know how you did it, but his eye, he's something mm-hmm. wrong with his eye, and it's just I don't know how that was achieved. And then also there, I mean, it's a Western, you would expect it.
Yeah.
There's gunplay, right? So how did you do the thing with the eye? And then with regard to the gunplay, was there rehearsals with that? Was there how did you pull off some of those masterful gun moves.
So with regards to the eye, that was a purposeful thing to mimic. It's hard to get into this without spoiling some things in the movie, but the eye was a prosthetic. So it was something that was put on by David Atherton, who's an incredible makeup, special effects makeup person. So he puts this thing on and kind of gives Tim this droopy eye, and then Tim also had some fake teeth in the front just to kind of give him a little bit of a buck tooth. So those were things that, as we got in, Tim was trying to, make those part of his character. I think he did he did an amazing job. And Tim, to speak to Tim being funny, it's funny because on this movie, he did the opposite of what he normally does, which was he had to restrain himself a lot. And, in his own words, it was harder than the normal acting he does, because he had to stop himself so much from going bigger or going, getting in too much into a character. So this was, I thought what he did was, the character he brought of Henry was just such a refined, quiet character, which was amazing. And now onto the gunplay. So this was something from the beginning. One of my favorite Westerns is Open Range. Open Range was, the guns were so heavy in that movie and so powerful, and the gunfights weren't a billion bullets. It was very specific. You pull the trigger, you aim, every shot counts. So really wanted to sell, how dangerous and how heavy these weapons were, with the sound and with, keeping track of every bullet. So if you notice in the movie, I'm sure people are going to try to count, but I think we succeeded in every bullet loaded was fired and nothing more. So if they shoot 6 bullets, they have to reload, and there's time taken out. And so what do you do while you're reloading? You have to hide, and you can't stick your head out. So those were things we wanted to really sell, that realism of what it is to be in a gunfight. Because if you pop your head out, or if you have an arm showing from behind the corner, you're going to get shot. And so it's just that gunplay was very, very important to get right and to make it feel like it was authentic. And Tim was fantastic. Tim, he had a lot of gun skills from Buster Scruggs. So he would be behind the scenes twirling guns and showing us tricks and stuff. But in this version, Henry, he's not a show off with the gun. So, but Tim definitely wanted to make sure he would take the gun home and the shotgun home every night, and he would just load and unload for hours just so he had it down. Because he just wanted to feel like it was second nature to his character. So he's very rehearsed and practiced with what he does.
Well, I'm glad you didn't ruin anything, but I will say that the gunplay just feels so grounded and realistic. There's almost like I feel like with some action movies, there's so much gunplay that after a while, it's just sort of, it's comical. I would point to something like John Wick. It's like so over the top that it just has to keep one upping itself. Whereas what you did, it's like it's tension filled. Every bullet, or even like sitting there knowing like, oh, like that's, now you got to like you say, run, hide, reload, make time for that. Make sure you're not, discovered. That just, it's on a whole other level. What I'm curious, just as like a Western, just as being a Western fan, I would put this in one of the top Westerns I've ever seen. I think it's so incredible. It's so like, I feel like there's a lot of indie movies that I think have kind of gone back and rediscovered this genre, but this is the best I've seen in just so many years. I can't even tell you, like it's just amazing. What have been the responses to people? I mean, I know it's rolling out theatrical. I know it'll eventually come to VOD. My recommendation is see it in a theater. That would be, I would tell people. But I'm curious responses that you've gotten so far to the film, what people have thought of it.
First of all, thank you for your response, because it really does mean a lot. I mean, hearing people say they enjoyed it, or because this is something you do in a bubble, and when you put it out, you have no idea how people are going to react to it. So to get a response that is somebody's excited, or it gave you a good feeling, that's what we do this for, and that it's nerve-wracking to wait and see what those responses are going to be. But we've gotten an amazing response. The reviews are fantastic. And when we went to Venice, we had a press drink, like a mixer, after the movie, and some of the press came and were there and talking, and I got to speak to a few of the reviewers, and they were just, similar things where they had a lot to say and great things to say, and then questions and just, how did we do it for this budget and things. So it's been a great ride. And I would say see it in the theater because I had watched it. I've seen it probably 62 times now, but one time in a theater, and that was in Venice. And we went, I'd watched it on a TV throughout all of the editing, and got to see it in Venice on the huge screen. And when those curtains pull back and the movie starts, it's a whole different thing. It's such an amazing experience. So yes, please go see it in theaters if you can. So
I think Westerns are made for theaters, just the expanse, right, of the landscape. It's like really just, I feel like seeing in the theater is a must. What's next? This was so well. Wait, before I ask that, actually, see, it's so hard to like not, but like keeping spoilers out of it. You clearly must have done some research regarding this. Can you talk a little bit about that, but around it?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Hopefully you have a beep button that you can.
No. But some research went into this for its authenticity.
Yeah. So I've gone down a bunch of conspiracy theory rabbit holes and gotten stuck for hours, researching, just moments in history that I think had an alternate ending. And so this was one that, I've read a lot of books on the subject. I've read, done a ton of research on the internet, and just kind of trying to get all the little pieces correct, even down to, this movie is set in Oklahoma. And so there was a lot of researching into Oklahoma history and how, there was this mining for tin. Some of the Indians had put out the word that there's this tin mine, and it was just a hoax. It was just to get people to go in this different direction. So there was a lot of historical moments that we kind of put into the film to make it feel more real, from locations to characters. So I'll leave it there. So,
yeah, well, good. I'm glad you didn't give anything away. And then, what do you have next up on your plate? Because this is so great. See,
no, it's
already.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
There's a film we're actually casting right now. This one it's not a Western. I will definitely do a Western again, but just so I don't get put in a category, because sometimes people pigeonhole you in either comedy or drama or Western. And I have to say, if I had to be pigeonholed in the category Western, it's not a bad one. Because, in this movie, during lunch, we would, every day, my DP and I would meet with the AD, we'd go over our schedule, we'd make a few tweaks here and there, and then we'd eat lunch, and then we'd leave a good 10 minutes for horse riding during our lunch break. So Westerns offer a lot of perks. You get to shoot guns, you get to ride horses. It's a lot of fun. But the next movie is more of a dark comedy drama, a little bit of action. So we're actually casting right now, and that one will, I'm not sure if we're allowed to talk about it yet. So, but we're in the beginning stages, trying to get it out there.
Awesome.
Well,
congratulations. Old Henry is just truly an experience you have to have, again, in the theater. It's fantastic. Potsy, thank you so much for talking to us on the Film.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.